Hello, guys. Welcome to today's episode of Couples Chronicles. Indeed, marriage is not easy, but it's a choice, it's a decision that when you make, if you really want it to be successful, then you have to keep going. You have to work for it in order for it to be successful and in order for you to be able to enjoy it. And there are so many decisions you will take in your marriage. In fact, you will take decisions every day. So there are some things you should agree to, and there are some things you should not agree to. You should not allow for you to be, for you to experience such in your marriage. No, there's a time to say yes, and there's a time to say no. There are some things you shouldn't allow in your home at all if you really want that home to be successful and if you really want your home to be peaceful. So today I'm going to be talking about things you should say no to in your marriage. Number one thing you should say no to in your marriage is say no to going to bed with unresolved issues in your home, especially unresolved issues with your spouse. Because if you leave all those things, they will keep piling up. And before you know it, the atmosphere in your home won't be filled with love anymore. It will be filled with so much animosity, malice and everything. And when the home is not peaceful and, when there is so much malice in the home is not being enjoyed. You will not enjoy your home, your spouse will not enjoy your home. Imagine two people that call themselves husband and wife. They will have an unresolved issue. For days, they are not talking to each other. Imagine that kind of home. The both of them will just keep suffering. And the children will even suffer more if the children are around. So having unresolved issues all the time in your home, it's not a good thing. So learn to say no to such. Whenever you guys have issue, try as much as you can to attend to that issue as soon as possible. Say no to involving family members and third parties into your marriage whenever you have issues with your partner, especially your parents, and especially if your parents did not approve of your partner. Don't be the kind of spouse that will always go and bring your parents into little matters that you know that you and your spouse, you and your partner can resolve. Because if your parents do not approve of your spouse, and whenever you guys have any issue, you begin to involve your parents, it can make them to have biased decisions when resolving that issue, and it will affect the relationship between your spouse and your parents. The more it will worsen it, even after that issue has been resolved totally, because of those things that you already told them. The bad things that you said that your spouse did, you already told your family, your parents. The way they see your spouse will change. That is how bad, and it will continue to worsen the more you do it. Maybe every time you have an issue with your spouse, you go and report it to your parents. It's very wrong. Instead, you can get someone else. Get someone that is neutral, in your relationship with you guys, just neutral. Someone that believes in marriage and someone that that can guide you. It can be a counselor. There are good counselors out there. It could be your pastor. Yes, it could be your spiritual leader. So try as much as you can to not to do anything that will worsen the situation at hand already. If you want to resolve your issues, resolve them maturely. Say no to jumping into big decisions or jumping into conclusions whenever issues arise in your home. Especially if maybe your spouse had an issue with someone, another person maybe outside on your home. Try as much as you can to hear your spouse's side of the story before judging, so that you don't end up antagonizing your own spouse. Imagine if your spouse had an issue with someone and you didn't even wait to hear his or her own side of the story, and you became so judgmental and started pointing fingers. It's something that can ruin a lot of things. It can bring disunity. It can, it's something that will hurt your spouse. Your spouse is not going to be happy about it. Say no to using the word my in your marriage all the time. My house, my marriage, my son, my daughter, my car, my this, my that. No. It should be our son, our daughter, our house, our car. That is how it should be. Imagine if you're always saying my house, my house, my house, my house. You're displaying so much pride towards your spouse, and you're actually making your spouse feel like he or she doesn't have a say or doesn't have anything in your home. Saying no to constantly having heated up arguments in front of your kids, because it can affect them emotionally. The tension is not good for them. So whenever you guys, want to settle your issues, try to do them when the kids are not around, or have some privacy while resolving your issues so that it doesn't affect your children emotionally. Say no to always using insults to end every statement you say to your spouse. Imagine if you are talking to your spouse and you just made a statement and you insulted him or her at the end, and the next thing you're using a very loving word. Your spouse is not going to remember that loving, sweet word. He or she is going to always remember those insults, especially when you repeat them over and over again. So it's something that can, be really hurtful. So don't even start it at all. Say no to making it a habit of eating outside, knowing full well that your spouse must have prepared delicious family meal at home. You should learn to, make it as a habit to eat it together as often as possible, even if maybe your work doesn't really allow it, but at least once a day, try as much as you can to always have that meal together with your family. It's something that helps you guys to build unity, helps you guys to build bond, and it also brings the home together. So it's really important. Say no to always having your relatives come over to your home without involving your partner, without even letting your partner know at all. It's very wrong. If you really want your spouse to be a good host to your relatives, you need to inform your spouse. You need to tell him when that your relative is coming and how long that visit is going to last. Because it is not your home, the home belongs to the both of you. So that piece of information is very important. Imagine if you don't tell your spouse, you don't inform your spouse that maybe one of your sisters, one of your relatives are coming over, and the next thing, the person just barges into the home and your spouse sees that person. Do you think your spouse is going to be happy about it? So of course not. So it's very important, and it's a sign of maturity that you inform your spouse prior to any visit from any of your relatives. Say no to constantly flirting with your friends of the opposite sex, especially. You're married now, so you should learn to set boundaries. I'm not saying you shouldn't have friends of the opposite sex, but mind the way you relate with them. Say no to making a strong decision that you're not going to share your room with your spouse. It can make your spouse feel rejected. Having a room with your spouse is actually a sign of, it's actually going to help you guys to communicate more, bond more, spend more time together. So, being in different rooms will only, it can separate you guys. It can bring that gap between the both of you. So although there are people that it works for, actually there are people that actually prefer it like that, but it's actually better when you guys are together. Say no to allowing any of your relatives that comes to visit to disrespect your spouse in any way. Don't ever entertain such. Don't even overlook it. Whenever such thing happens, take proper action immediately. Because if you keep overlooking it, before you know it, they get used to it. And before you know it, your spouse gets disrespected all the time. So you shouldn't allow anybody. As a married man, as a married woman, don't allow any of your relatives, whosoever, to disrespect your spouse in any way. Because when that person is disrespecting your spouse, the person is actually disrespecting you as well. Finally, for today's episode, say no to always suggesting divorce whenever you guys go through, difficult or challenging situation in your marriage. Divorce should be the last option on your mind. Yes, there's no marriage that doesn't have problems. There is no marriage that doesn't experience up and downs. But you should rather find a better solution rather than always, using divorce to threaten your partner because you guys are facing one thing or the other. The thing is that some people actually don't want the divorce, but they use it to scare their partner. They use it to threaten their partner. Not that they actually mean it, but they use it to tell their partner, if you don't, make things get better, if things don't get better, I'm going to leave. They're not saying it because they want to leave, but they're saying it to, actually, bring something into the head of their partner. But the thing is that it is actually working the wrong way. You might think that it's working, but it doesn't work that way. It's actually discouraging your partner, and it can make your partner become defensive. So it shouldn't be an option. When you guys begin to go through difficult times, it's better to discuss and find solution to those problems. Let divorce be the last thing on your mind. But when things get really, 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 really bad, separation could come in as an option. Divorce is not always the best. I could go on and on and on about a lot of things you need to say no to in your marriage. If you really want your marriage to work, there are things you need to say no to. There are things you should disallow in your marriage. So there are so many of them. I just mentioned a few of them. So marriage is indeed hard work, and if you want it to work, you have to work hard for it. Learn to do things that will always bring you guys together, that will build the bond, the unity, the peace, the respect in that marriage. So that is all for today's episode. In my next episode, I am going to be talking about so many advices for the married. So stay tuned. Watch out for my next video. So thank you so much for watching my video today. Thank you so much for listening. And please, if you've not subscribed, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also like and comment on my videos. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.